Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Your Spiritual Journey. This is the space and the place where we get down to discussing things important to your soul. So, as usual, we would like you to like us, to subscribe, and maybe even support us on Patreon. Today's guest is somebody who I've been trying to get on this show for about a year. She's not real aware of that, but it's somebody I've wanted to have on the show for a long time. It's Reverend Marjorie Rivera Kain, and she's a professional psychic medium who has been a full-time reader for 24 years. She's Pittsburgh's most professional and prolific reader. She leads message circles, lectures, teaches. She's a published writer, a magazine columnist, and a radio talk show co-host for many years. She is a Lilydale trained medium, and we'll get into what that means. Lilydale is one of my favorite spots on earth, and the spiritual center of much of this country. She holds her ministerial and metaphysician's degree through Fellowships of the Spirit that's located in Lilydale, New York. As a psychic medium, she's helped thousands with her ability to predict future events and communicate with those who have crossed over into the spirit side of life. Her down-to-earth approach has earned her a vast and loyal following. Her talents are not limited to spirit communication, as she is amazingly accurate with her ability to decipher relationship connections, career forecast, and every imaginable question on the future of each client's life. She was born in Panama, and she is a Kuna Indian. The Kunas are the indigenous peoples of the San Blas Islands off the coast of Panama. She was born into a family of healers, shaman, and medicine women. Her life as a Latin woman is infused with a strong belief and respect for the spirit world. So you can imagine why I'm excited to have her with us today. She began to see and communicate with spirits when she was young as 5 years old. Her pursuits eventually took her to Lilydale, New York, where she attended seminary school and became ordained as a spiritualist minister. She was welcomed the many changes living a spiritual life has brought to her and has allowed her to evolve into the woman that she is today: medium, healer, artist, minister, teacher, mystic, and student of the esoteric. A trip to Taos, New Mexico in 2000 changed her life so much that she knew she needed to name her business Taos Co., which I guess is Taos Company, which means transformation and other services. She is the foundational pastor of Taos Co., which is, again, transformation and other services. She owns Pittsburgh Medium, Pittsburgh Tarot, Art and Angels, Blissful Marriages, Your Spirit Team, and Tribe 412. She also sat on the board of directors of Sight Night and for Tribe 412, founded and hosted in Pittsburgh. And I also know that she's on the board of Pittsburgh Spiritual Insight, which is where I first met her. And I'm going to stop there, other than to also mention that she's got 4 ebooks on her website that I checked out today. And you will get links to her website from our website. So without further ado, because that's quite an introduction and there's a lot to talk about there, if we would just start with your spiritual journey from childhood until the present day, and then I'll ask you some questions.
Okay? Thank you. Well, that could keep you busy for a really long time. So I'll just start by saying I think, and I will always pay homage to everything that I am and everything that I do has to do with my mom, who is present here in the studio with us. Her name is Genoveva Magallon Rivera, and I am Marjorie Rivera. And the Americanized version gets attached to me, Rivera, and but when she says it's so much more amazing. But so I literally was born a medium, born a sensitive, and born to this amazing woman. And I didn't know that I was going to end up in my life speaking so much about her, quoting her, and ending up being like her. But it's an honor and a pleasure. She comes from the longest existing matriarchal society in the world. They are also matrilineal and matrilocal, which means that they don't really keep track of who your father is. They can prove who your mom is. That's kind of what my joke is. Yeah. And then when you get married, you and your husband and your children live with your mother's family. And so that's what the matrilocal means. You stay close to your mom. And I've always stayed close to my mom. I don't think what's between us now, Mom? 10 houses.
Oh.
Yeah, she doesn't get a lot of space from me. But the women of the tribe are the healers, curanderas. They are the ones who work with the herbs and do all of the medicinal magic, which is they're called herbieras. They are the shamans and the brujas, which are, the village witch women. And my grandmother was very well renowned, and also one of our uncles. But my mother's visions are very beautiful, and she passed them to me as well. Oh. So that's kind of where I got it from.
Okay, so this has been from childhood until now.
Yes.
You've been on this path.
Well, I think when I was little and I didn't understand what was happening to me, and finally when I started asking questions, I wasn't told to be quiet or we don't talk about that in this family. Or, I wasn't told I was making it up. I was celebrated. So it's always been really nice not to have to hide that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, very different from many of the people I've interviewed on this program.
I'm sure. I've heard that more times than I can count. My story was a little different in that it wasn't my family who wanted me to hide it away. It was me, because I was having very intense emotional experiences, especially in puberty, and I didn't want to be the weird girl who saw dead people. And so I kind of tried to pray it away. I tried to drink it away. I tried to do lots of different things to not be this. But there came a point in my 20s where I couldn't anymore. And so I eventually got myself to Lilydale. And where, as a matter of fact, I went to a psychic fair in Warren, Ohio. I was in my mid-20s at the time, and I was with a friend of mine, and we went to see a reader. Her name was Eleanor Shade, and she told me, "Honey," she said, you're a medium," and I was like, "Yeah," and she said, "I think that even amongst the rare, you're pretty rare." And I had no idea what to do with that. And I was just like, okay. And then I told my friend later that night that the information was just confusing to me. Yeah. And he said, "Well, I know who you should talk to. You should talk to Eileen McClure. She's my friend. She's an astrologer, and she is attending a school that she might be able to give you some information." And we went to see her. She had a beautiful home. She was a regular school teacher, and I don't remember what she taught, maybe math. Yeah. It didn't really matter, but she was a professional astrologer, and she was studying in Lilydale, and she said, "I'm a psychic." And I was like, you're like so normal. Like, that was my first thought. You have a home. This is it seems like a beautiful life. And I was like, and you read for people too? She's like, yeah. She's like, all of this stuff is just really normal. She's like, it's normal to you too. She's like, you haven't really thought of that yet. And she sat on the floor and she looked deep into my eyes and she gave me a past life reading. And I'm not really sure why. I didn't ask for it. She just did. And then she got up like, okay, that's done. And she went into the kitchen and she came back and she handed me some papers and she said, you need to get to Lilydale. So it was a brochure for Fellowships of the Spirit. I called the next day. The following weekend, they had a weekend immersive training on mediumship and messages and meditation. And I went. And then that was like the beginning of the end for me.
All right. I've got a couple questions.
Okay.
One, so you grew up speaking Spanish?
My mother speaks Spanish. I can understand everything, especially if I'm getting yelled at.
Okay. Certain words.
Yeah, all the words.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you grew up here, not in...
Yeah,
Not in the
I
islands?
grew up here.
Okay.
I grew up. I'm a Pittsburgh girl. I grew up in
Okay.
Pleasant Hills, and and so half of my family is in Panama, and half of my family is here in Pittsburgh, mostly throughout the South Hills.
Okay.
Yeah, so I am equally Panamanian and equally American.
So do you travel back and forth at times? Or
I like to go lots of places. And I haven't been to Panama as much as I'd like in my adult life, but I've been to lots of other places, and Panama's on our agenda as well.
So it sounds to me from your upbringing that your mother was probably quite pleased when you went to Lilydale to explore this.
I've never asked her.
Oh. Okay.
She did attend my graduation, which that made me feel like she was very proud of me.
Okay.
So yeah, I would tend to think so. I hadn't had a really good track record of finishing anything.
Yeah.
So I went to college, and I'm informed that I dropped out of college in my last semester.
In your
Right,
my.
yeah, and I had prepared my whole life. I knew nothing except for that I was going to be a surgeon. And so that was my plan my whole entire life. And then when I dropped out of school, I think my parents were a little upset with me. And then when I told them that I was going to go to seminary school, maybe at that point nobody believed me.
Yeah.
So when I did, it was really important to me. And I think that the way that I remember feeling was that she was just happy that I found something that was important.
Yeah. Well, going that far with your head into the idea of medical school, it sounds like you knew you wanted to be a healer. You just weren't quite sure what path that would take.
I was going to be a physician, and then I turned into a metaphysician, so I just did it on the spiritual level. Yeah, it's true.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, there's, I guess there are ways in which I experience you, and therefore I project that on other people and think that they experience you this way also, which is you're a little bit more larger than life.
I am?
You are. That's just the way I experience you. Okay.
I've been told I have a certain charm
Uh-huh.
or a mystique, and I'm okay with that.
Well, you have an aura about you that says you're well-grounded in who you are and what you're all about.
I think that has to do with having a family that loves you and supports you and keeps it real, and also having an amazingly grounded wife.
Yeah.
So my wife helps to keep me very, very grounded with good food and lots of love. And so I have a very well supported and grounded life.
Yeah.
I'm very structured and organized, and
Yeah.
I like that.
Well, I mean, just looking at this list, that you own Pittsburgh Medium, Pittsburgh Tarot, Ardent Angels, Blissful Marriages, Your Spirit. It sounds like you're all over the place, and yet the focus is probably pretty much the same but different. Could you explain the difference in these different ventures that you're involved in?
Sure. Pittsburgh needed to have different facets of me. Best way I could describe it. Pittsburgh Tarot is a troupe of tarot readers that I have trained. And so when corporations need more than just me to come, I bring my troupe of readers and we do corporate parties. That's Pittsburgh Tarot. Blissful Marriages is my wedding ministry. So it is the same. I have a group of ministers that where if I can't go to do a wedding, I don't want to leave these people to have spiritual ceremonies done by someone that isn't beautifully trained in how to customize their ceremonies and to be in gorgeous, locations that are non-traditional, or to perform ceremonies that are non-traditional without me being part of it.
Yeah.
And so I got all the people that I really care about to do weddings as well. And Art and Angels is a company that I formed to be of service to non-spiritual venues. So I have a contract with Painting with a Twist. I do Pittsburgh and Cleveland and not Youngstown, Akron, Greensburg, Washington, like all of the Painting with a Twist within a drivable range. And I wanted them to be able to have something that they could offer to their clients to educate people. And how these things go together, I have no idea really, other than if they were willing to do it and to let us, or rather me in this case, come in and to educate their customers about the fact that our spirits can't be contained in our body, and that they're so much bigger than our bodies, and that they're readable, and they communicate. Our spirits communicate. And so why not let me come in and show people who had no desire to learn anything, don't want to go to church, they're not going to come for a reading at my office, maybe to connect with loved ones or whatever, but I'm going to find a way to get to people.
All right, so I'm trying to picture this. All right, people are there, I mean, typically thinking they're going to paint.
And drink.
Probably have a glass of wine or two or three. And what are you doing while they're painting, or is this before they get into their painting, or what happens?
Sometimes I come after the painting and I give them a psychic reading based on the painting. So I use the painting like a big tarot card. Or specifically, they're painting an angel, and then I come in and then I give them a message from their angel. Or it could have nothing to do with the painting, and I just come in afterwards and I give messages from loved ones. So it doesn't matter to me how it's set up. It just matters that I get to be there.
Okay.
Yeah. Joan Rivers once said that, and I loved her, she was very funny, and she said that she was excuse my language because I'm going to swear, she said she was the busiest bitch in the business because she never turned down a gig. And I said, I'm going to use that because I want to stay busy and I want to work. And so I find a way to do my work in platforms where I may not have been otherwise welcomed.
Yeah.
So I do readings in bars and in country clubs and in wineries, and I don't care where the people are. If you ever want to have me there, I'm going to be there. Yeah. So I go to where the people are, not just expect the people to come to me.
Well, I have to tell you, I went on your website today and looked at your calendar.
Crazy.
And you are one busy lady.
Don't look at the calendar.
My goodness.
I will tell my mom. People will say, well, do you know we're going to, my girlfriends or whatever, well, what are you doing, in August? I'll be like, oh my God, please don't make me look at the calendar, because if I see how I'm committed, I'll get overwhelmed. And so I really only look a week or two in advance, because I know I can do that.
Yeah.
But if I have to think about it, it is a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if you're going to schedule things, you have to look at your calendar.
Or
Unless
the
you have
assistant
somebody
can't.
else do
Yeah,
that
oh
for
yeah,
you.
oh yeah. I can't. This is a team. I have a team.
Okay. If, and you have something coming up, and I'm sorry that this podcast won't air prior to this event.
Okay.
And it's an event that I wish I could get to, but I'm busy at that time. But it's on April 26th, and it's Meet Your Spirit Guides.
Yeah.
Now, I have been introduced to my spirit guides in a couple different ways, and so I do work with them, and I'm curious, I guess, as to how you connect with somebody's spirit guides. I mean, looking at me, can you see my spirit guide nearby?
Yeah. So I'll explain to you how I interact with spirit guides.
Okay.
So my understanding of guides is that most of them are angels, and sometimes they are long past loved ones, and sometimes they are other sorts of helpful spirits that are there to guide us. I believe that spirit guides give us spirit guidance. They give us spiritual guidance. And so I have a system where I believe that angels communicate to me through light. Mm-hmm. So just like any artist, or just like any tattoo artist, since I like tattoos, needs to have a source of light to add perspective and depth. I believe that visions have the same thing, perspective and depth based on the light. And so when angels communicate to me, it is through visions, because I'm a vision person. I'm a visionary. I have clairvoyance. So when they communicate to me, it is through the revelation of color and light in a visual message. So I'll give you an example. Let's say that your guide was showing me a visual message for you of an apple, and the apple glistened, and it was red, and a beautiful spark of light came through the apple. It means that the angel was using the apple to share the vision with me, and using the sparkle that comes through the apple to reveal their light to me. The color meaning something, the message meaning something, and the placement meaning something. So I receive all of that and am able to interpret the messages, but then also I understand why then inherently that guide has chosen to work with you at this time. And then also they always embed. So that's a very simplistic, example of how they might communicate with me, because they can communicate messages with me that might cover an entire lifetime. So it is an old spiritualist process called an orograph, where the spirits, in this case angels, provide in order, in readable and interpretable order. That didn't come out right. In readable and interpretable order, symbols that mean something. So for me, the symbolic part is very easy, and then also noticing and understanding angelic light is also. So it's kind of like they just superimpose it, and that's how they communicate with me. So some people would like to think that guides and angels have faces, and if that works for them, that's great. I see light.
Yeah.
Because, to me, the word angel means messenger. And angels are beings of light, so it makes sense to me that I would see them in light.
Okay.
Yeah. So, if I saw your angel, it would come to me in very blues and very whites, and would reveal some sort of message, but I see them dangling over your shoulders in blues and whites. blue being the color of communication, go figure, and white meaning of highest integrity, nobility, clarity, and the ability to focus. So they chose you for this particular adventure in your life to be of assistance to you, kind of like your hair and your eyes. That's how they match with you right now, blue and white. Even your shirt is blue and white today. Well, kind of blue. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So, in any case, in that workshop, I help people remove the blocks to thinking that it's something that's so esoteric that they can't do it themselves. Because the building blocks of any communication system happens like when we're taught to speak a language, any language. First, we have to learn the building blocks. What are the first things that we learn when we're little? ABCs, 1, 2, 3s, colors and shapes. Mm-hmm. Angels use the same thing when they speak in symbols to us. So I teach people how to receive colors, numbers, and concepts like feelings, so that way they can put all of those things together to interpret the messages that their angels would like to give them. And by breaking it down and helping people understand that they can receive a concept like love or freedom or trust or kindness or peace or something like that, instead of having to understand, your spirit guide wants you to understand that on next Tuesday you shouldn't turn left onto Beatty Drive because you're going to get hit by a bus. That's a lot of message.
Yeah.
But a message can be something as simple as you're on the right path, or I'm working to help you. But you have to start somewhere. Mm-hmm. And so I help people get started.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So those messages, from what I understand, you receive them telepathically.
I do, yes.
Okay. And they are sometimes as specific as don't make that left turn.
Oh, yeah.
And sometimes very general.
Sometimes they are as general as don't forget to tie your shoelaces because you trip a lot. And yeah, and I use that all the time as a joke because I say, if you want to ask questions of your guide, that's great. And if you want to receive their message, please don't be offended if what they're trying to do is save you from breaking your neck. Because I am not in charge of what they say to you, but I am responsible for relaying a competent message to you.
Yeah.
So either ask a question or don't, but be open to receive the guidance that they feel it's necessary to give.
Yeah. So just because you've lifted your arm a couple times, can you talk about the symbolism on your arms?
Yeah. My mom was asking me the other day something about tattoos. Well, my first thought on tattoos is when I turned 18, and my father said, "Well, I hope you don't ever plan on having a real job." And I was like, "No." And my thought on tattoos is that these bodies are our very temporary home, and you don't move into any home without decorating the walls. So tattoos to me are just decorations, right? They all mean something. My favorite tattoo is this one right here. And it is a Robert Browning quote, and it says, but a man's reach should exceed his grasp, or what's a heaven for?"
Right.
It is a huge part of why I do what I do. Because you could do anything. You could be a great chef. You could be a great painter. You could be a great tattoo artist. But if you don't have a motivation for like why you do it, then I feel like you're never going to get further than just this part, the part where your hand can reach.
Yeah.
So you have to be reaching for something that's further. In that case, for me, it is to make manifest the glory of God. So everything that I do is about that woman and about that entity, right? About God. So even my tattoos, even my decorations, this is clearly a symbol of change and a symbol of,
For those of you
basically.
not
Oh,
on YouTube, she's pointing to a butterfly.
it's a butterfly. And then I have a mola tattooed on my right arm, which is, it's like our family crest. So
Okay.
this is a mola that my sister designed that kind of honors our travels from Panama to here. It has like, certain little symbols, but the what's that called, Mom? Folk art? The folk art of the Panamanian Indians, the Kunas, is called molas. And these are actually quilts that are handmade by the Kuna women. It's a huge part of the commerce there. And so we thought, we like tattoos better than blankets. Why not get a tattoo? And then this one here says Lolos, and that's what I call the loved ones. I call them the Lolas. That means loved ones living on in spirit. And so
I saw that on your website.
yeah, that's what that stands for, because they bless me, and I always say they love me. They do. So
Well, of course.
I had to put them there, and that's our little homage to family Ohana. And like, we could spend all day. My back is covered with sugar skulls and the gypsy moth that has like the what looks like little skulls in it, but there's sugar skulls. The sugar skulls a throw to, my ancestry and my love of the Day of the Dead and all that kind of stuff, even though that's a Mexican holiday, and my mother will remind me of that all the time. I'm like, Mom, it's about honoring your ancestors. I get it, but that's why I have that there.
Yeah.
And then I have, my whole leg is done. I have totem animals there, and they're all filled with starry universes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like everything has a spiritual meaning as well. And
Well, it's interesting, I've been listening to you talk about, this is the home we live in right now, the temporary one, and what do you do with the home? You decorate it. Everybody in my family, my wife and my 2 kids and my son-in-law and my daughter-in-law all have tattoos, and I have none. And I've always seen it as, well, I was made perfect. I can't improve on that.
Oh.
So that's, see, it depends on perspective, I guess.
It does. Everything's about perspective. Yeah. I have nothing against anybody that doesn't have tattoos. It's so funny. I think that I think when I meet somebody, it's like, oh, you're like a perfect canvas. Like, I'm running out of real estate. Can I borrow some of your skin? So you're a good canvas.
Yeah.
Excuse me. A blank slate, for lack of anything better to say.
Yeah. So we got your father's take on tattoos. What about your mother's?
She has none.
Okay.
I think one of our family friends' daughters wants to get a tattoo that honors like all the people that she really loves, and she calls her grandma, and she said, Grandma, I want to get a flower that would represent you, and what do you think it should be? And my mom told her she loves gardenias, but when she smells gardenias, she knows somebody's going to pass away. And she said, maybe you don't want to get a gardenia.
Oh.
And I said, well, that's funny, Mom, because on my tattoos, I have you represented by a bird of paradise. And because she's like, I always say she's like a little tropical flower, little pointy, very colorful, but, beautiful flower. And so she doesn't have any. She likes them, but also I don't think she would want to endure the pain.
Yeah.
So I mean, they hurt.
I've always been attracted to bird of paradise.
Oh,
It's
yeah?
one of my favorites. Yeah.
I like plumerias. Plumeria. I don't know what if there's like I think there's another name for it, but I don't know what that other name is.
Yeah, I don't recognize
It's a Hawaiian
that.
flower.
Oh,
It's
okay.
white, and it has like little round leaves, and it's either pink or yellow in towards the middle. They're my favorite. They smell the best.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll keep that in mind. All right. So it seems to me that the year 2000 was a critical year for you because, you talk about two events happening then. That's when you became a full-time reader, and it's also when you went to New Mexico to Taos.
It is. So
I'm assuming those two events are connected.
I never really thought of it. I went to New Mexico because I wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to go. I'm a gay woman. I went to New Mexico because I wanted to see the Taos Pueblo that Ansel Adams, I'm a fan of Ansel Adams, that of the photo that he had taken. So I was like, okay, yeah, I'm going to go there because I like to study my gay heritage. And I went there, coincidentally, it was March 25th of that year. And I remember this because it was my girlfriend's birthday. And we got there to start her birthday, and the Pueblo was closed to the public.
Oh.
And I was like, what? You can't do that. Like, who does that? But then so I'm standing out in front of the Pueblo, and there was this little Native American lady, and she said, I see you. And I was like, I see you too. You can go in there, and I can't. She said, no. She said, I see your soul. And she said, I'm going to let you in.
Wow.
Right. And she said, and I'm going to give you a gift. And she let us drink from the sacred blue stream. And then she took us in. And I had so many amazing experiences while I was there. It was the first time I ever had a full-blown past life recall. Like, I never really gave it much thought, but from like the minute I got off the plane in a city I'd never been in before, in the middle of the night having to drive up through the canyon to get up to the plateau, I never even needed a map. It was like I knew exactly where I was, where my hotel was, where everything was. Everything that happened while I was there was just complete synchronicity. And that had never happened to me to that extent before.
Yeah.
So when I came home, I was like, I have to find a way to honor how I felt when I was there, because I wanted to do something that would help people awaken the way that I felt when I was there.
Yeah.
So that's why I named my company Taos Co., because I wanted to help them transform.
Yeah.
So anything that I did, I wanted to be able to make an offering to help people the way I was helped.
Oh, that's a beautiful story.
Thanks.
Yeah, my brother and his wife lived in Taos for many, many years, and I know that windy road, that trip that goes up there.
It's very windy and dark.
Yeah.
But it's a lovely place.
Yeah.
Is one of my favorite places. I went to Sedona too, and I loved it because I was with a bunch of my friends, Regina Rivers, who I'm sure you know, and Kathy Evans, Palmisano, and there was, I don't know, like 16 or 17 of us that went all together, and I loved it, but it wasn't like that feeling of home that I got when I went to Taos the first time.
Yeah, I've been to Sedona a couple times, and it's a very spiritual place in terms of location, but because of the flocks of tourists there, it's often hard to tap into that spirituality unless you can really get focused.
Yeah. That you have to do out in the desert and stuff. Like it's so commercialized that you have to like keep digging to get in there, and it's lovely, and at the same time you have to dig a little further than I wanted to on my first trip there. So
yeah, I went on a hike up in the mountains, and I did that with my brother, and we're getting up there in years. I wanted to climb like I was much younger, but it was still a great experience just to get off and, and get up in the mountains.
That's
good.
nice. You could be hanging out with my dad. He just turned 78. And for his 78th birthday, he had decided that he needed to go volcano climbing in Panama for his birthday. By himself. And he had to have a guide. And he wouldn't go because he was upset because he had to have a guide because he couldn't do it by himself. So you could be his guide or he could be yours. And then you could go together, climb volcanoes.
Well, I'll be 78 next month.
See? There you go.
I don't know that a volcano hike would really appeal to me, but kudos to your dad for at least envisioning that as a rite of passage, maybe.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. I'm very conscious of your mother over there and thinking, boy, I would love to interview her sometime. We'll have to talk about that. So, as I typically do on these, is that I give the guest an opportunity to leave our audience with some words of wisdom.
Thank you.
So, this is your time. And if you're not feeling real wise, you just leave them with some words.
I can say a few things.
Okay.
So I think that one of the most important things that I have learned that I'll share in this life is that you have to have an idea or an intention for what it is that you're doing at any given moment. So every time I start a class, when I start my readings, my lectures, anything, I start with an intention, and I state that intention pretty clearly. Yeah. And I have one for my life as well, and that has kept me pretty on course to being able to, to help people, but to have variety in my life so that I'm not bored or boring. And but I think that one of the most important gifts that we can offer the world is a clear and decisive picture of who we are and what we have to offer. Yeah. And so if anybody out there is looking for their first place to start, or they want to know, what should I be doing right now? Learn yourself. I think that's a very wise thing to do.
And how do you do that? How do you do that? How do you learn yourself?
Well, I think that in order to learn yourself, you have to get a little quiet and you have to ask yourself some pretty important questions. Mm-hmm. Like, why do I do these things? And what is important to me? And why does this matter? Who matters to me? Who do I love? And why am I in this? What am I doing this for? What are my motivations? So it's really just a lot of exploration.
Yeah. Okay. Well, audience, you heard it here. So take what resonates with you and put the rest on a shelf. And until next time, this has been your spiritual journey.